remember, like Bob Clark and Doug Campbell.
Rob Clark and Joe Bordelli.
Oh, you gotta give him that. Dude, spit on that thing.
In the heart of Dallas, where legends unfold, a tale of shadows, mysteries untold, where truth is obscured in the depths of the night. The Lone Gunman Podcast sheds a flickering light.
Section 107 of the Fair Use Act of 1976 provides protection to use copyrighted material for research, analysis, education, and commentary purposes. We here at Loose Moose Productions reserve that right. Now, on with the show. Here's Joe B and the Triple B. Hey, Aunt Udine, how's things in Texas?
Everything is going to hell down here in Texas.
Hands on Triple B and Joe B. Joe B and the Triple B, baby. Triple B and Joe B. Rock on, get Joe Morelli. Triple B and Joe B. Joe B and Triple B, baby. Triple B and Joe B. Rock on, get Joe Morelli. We're coming in. I wanna seek in the truth about JFK. Here's the long-going podcast. And here we go.
And here we go.
What's up, everybody? This is your boy, the Triple B, Big Bad Bob. This is episode number 302 of the Lone Gunman Podcast, The Many Heights of Lee Harvey Oswald. And along with me today in his hurricane shelter is the always handsome and scarred Joe Borelli. What's up, Joe?
Hey, how are you, Rob? Happy Friday.
It's the birthday boy himself, folks. It's Joe's birthday. I was going to sing to him. He doesn't want me to sing to him, so I'm going to honor his request. But please feel free, all of our friends in the comments section, to wish old handsome Joe a happy birthday. So what are you now, Joe? 29? 30?
From your lips. Let's see. Yeah. From your lips to God's ears. Yes, I was born in 1947, bungled. No, let's see if someone... I told my age in the chat before at a past show. Let's see if anyone can get it. Late 30s. But my birthday... Oh, thank you, John.
Thank you, John, for the birthday boy. Have a beer on John tonight, Joe.
I will. So
that was
I have
awfully nice of John. Thank you, John.
John is the best. Every week. I love it. So I had plans. We were actually going to record this on Wednesday, Rob, because
we were.
I had plans to go to a fish concert tonight in the Catskill Mountains at like the Woodstock venue. It's called Bethel Woods. And that hurricane that I think you dealt with yesterday, right, Rob?
Yeah, it went past a couple days and then into the day a little bit. It stopped earlier this morning for us, and I guess a couple hours later for you.
Yeah, it's been raining all day today. I had a couple friends coming up here to my house in the Catskills, or my family's house, and 70 acres, beautiful place. If some of you will remember, I spent 4 weeks up here in March, and my friends bailed because of the rain, and I wasn't going to come either. So I said, Rob, let's just do it live. Shoot, we should have had the Bill O'Reilly thing, like, screw it, we'll do it live. So I came up here anyway, and then, like, during the hurricane, and then it stopped, and I checked StubHub, and tickets were like $15. And I was like, you know what? I'll buy it. So I might go after the pod. So
well, there you go.
Yeah,
And buy a beer on John while you're there. Buy
So,
one hit of acid on John.
It will be solo, but I've done it before. Yeah, hey, if I could, I would. My friend was supposed to bring, but he didn't. He bailed because he's scared of rain. So it is
Bastard.
what it is. But yes, as in fish, Colleen with a PH, the jam band, and I've seen them more times, probably about 50 times, but not even as close as my other bands that my top band. But so we'll see how it goes. We're taking it as it goes, but I'd love nothing more. I was thinking, like, should I do the pod on my birthday? Should I not? But there's nothing more I love than being here with Rob and with all our listeners.
You're damn
loyal.
right. So
They're the
speaking of whom, let's say hello to some folks in the chat, like Trey, first in line. What's up, Trey? Tiny Dancer in. Let's see. South to West is ready. Hell comes to play. What's up, Lee? Colleen, our Rocket Queen, is in the house. Bungled and botched. Nothing gets past him. Let's see. James Smith. What's up, James? Tit to you, sir. Let's see. Sally. Hello, Sally. From across the pond, Sally.
Yes. Thank you for
Alpha
staying up with us.
66.
As
That
always,
reminds
Sally.
me. Big Mike pointed out that I've been putting the wrong link in all the descriptions for our merch for some reason because I'm an idiot. Yeah, I will fix it shortly. If you would like a working link, just email me at the loongummipodcast@gmail.com and I'll get it to you. Let's see. Scott is in the house.
Scott.
John. Let's see. Betty is in the house. What's up, Betty Bobo?
Did you say hi to Lee? Bloody
did.
Benders? Okay.
I did.
Hello, Lee.
Moose Heaven. Moose 7. What's up? Paula,
Yeah.
Jane, and Trey. Wow.
Bungled. Oh, wow. Thank you so
Boom.
much. Paula, you're the best.
Boom.
Whoa. Couple
Boom.
beers or doses on me tonight.
Oh, you are going to be up tonight,
Correct.
Joe. All right.
I love it. But let me reply to
Oh,
because he had a question.
hold on, Joe.
Oh, wow.
Lee comes through. Bam. Thank you, Lee. I'll give Joe 2 out of that 10, and I'll keep 8. How's that work?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
No, I just Bungled was asking about my T-shirt in 1947. So this is actually, I've worn a few of these shirts. Lifted LRG. It's called Lifted Research Group. It's like a designer shirt, whatever. Not designer. It's not.
They're only $120 a piece.
No, they're like 20.
Mm-hmm.
Not designer. I misspoke. But as you know, Rob, 47 is my number. I annoy you with it all the time. And
Yes.
It happens to be the number of this brand. And I like that it says research. Like the black one I have, it says Lifted Research Group, which I like it because Rob and I are a lifted research group.
Big Jack, thank you, sir. And Joe.
Wow, we are killing it.
Colleen must love you. $20. Thank you, Colleen. My goodness. Y'all are just amazing tonight. Good Lordicus.
Yes, we love you guys, and I'm not lying. If I didn't want to do the pod tonight, I could have gotten it right off. But I wanted
Sally throwing pounds at you from across the pond. Pound.
Wow, Sally, thank you. You're the best.
Thank you, Sally.
And yeah, it's not an exaggeration. Like I look forward to this every week, and love being here with you guys all. So. I appreciate everyone who's here, everyone who gave a super chat. Love you guys. And
Scott. Golly day. Wow. Woo.
We might get you to Lancer at this rate.
We might get through this podcast in 3 hours. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you guys so much, man. You are amazing.
John,
Amazing.
Joe realized it's a profitable move to have a birthday every week.
At
Well,
that rate, you'd be older than Methuselah. It's Joe's 795th birthday, folks.
yeah. Well, with that, we'll get right into it because, John, I've actually mentioned this a few times before when we've talked about the fracas in New Orleans. And we've talked about this a lot, and I gave little hints that the fracas was on my birthday in previous shows. So today is August 9th. Colleen, the best. Today is August 9th, which is, of course, the 61st anniversary of the fracas in New Orleans with Lee Harvey Oswald and Carlos Brignier. And a
Come on, Carlos, hit me, pussy. Come on. Put him up. Put up your dukes. Let's fight.
Oh, Rob, Lee's hands were behind his back when he said,
Oh. It'd be a lot fun. This story would be a lot funnier if Carlos would have actually decked him and like knocked him out in the middle of Canal Street. I think taking a whole different turn.
And we'll get into it, but I think that's what Lee wanted, and we'll get into why he would have wanted that result. But he definitely did try to bait Carlos Brignier into hitting him, and Brignier didn't take the bait. He did not hit him. Someone else pushed Oswald, or there's other reports of another person with Oswald that had flyers, and those flyers then went on the ground. There was no punches thrown, and the police very quickly went in. So
the way I understand it, was either Brignier or one of his buddies knocked the flyers out of Oswald's hand. And that's what almost started the fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's revisit, shall we?
Sure. Miguel Cruz and was it Nesto Hernandez, I believe it was, were the other two Cuban exiles with
Celso Hernandez.
Nelson. Yes, Celso Hernandez.
Yes, Nelson. We're just making up Mexican names for everybody.
Make things up as we go along here. But and we go back in time to August 9th,
1963.
Yes. So before we get into the actual 9th, this is a little timeline from Bill Simpich's essay, The 12 Who Built the Oswald Legend, chapter number 9, and this is available for free on maryfarrell.org.
Excellent work.
Amazing work. One of my favorite essays for sure. And the title is Oswald's Provocative Actions in New Orleans Built His Legend. August 1st. And Rob, we've talked about this a few times. I didn't even include it. Oswald wrote the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. That would be V.T. Lee, and told him that he had gotten into a brawl with the Gusanos, Spanish for worms, and a well-known
Spanish worms in Cuban exile.
Epithet. I'm not even going to try that. For the Cuban exiles. This incident had not happened, but Oswald made sure it did a few days later. Oswald's target was the Cuban DRE leader, Carlos Brignier. I'm not 100% sure if it happened or not, but we're not going to get into that now.
Well, it didn't happen on Canal Street. We'll put it that way. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
About the alleged fracas outside of the Havana. What was it? The Havana bar?
Yeah, with Robert Easterling.
Yeah, or as Pena's bar.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a fracas, and except there were no cameras and no police came. So nobody was arrested, and it wasn't caught on film.
Yes.
But 8 days later, there was one that was.
Yeah, Rob, and I think that's the key difference is that it wasn't caught on camera. And I mentioned Easterling, not to be confused with Esterline, but who did witness Oswald allegedly getting kicked and beaten by a few Cuban exiles. But so on August 5th was the day that Oswald visited Brignier's clothing store and introduced himself as an ex-Marine. prepared to fight against Castro and help them train guerrillas. He had come to the right place. The DRE were attracted to military action and propaganda along with those lines. The two men talked for a full hour. On August 6th, that the next day, Oswald returned to Bring Air store, leaving a copy of his Marine guidebook manual. We've all heard that story for sure. 3 days later, on August 9th, of course, 61 years ago, a few hours ago, Brinier, Celso Hernandez, and another friend saw Oswald, that would be Miguel Cruz, leafleting for the FPCC and realized he was a Red Marine, which I think means he was a communist Marine, and no friend of theirs. As Oswald had foreseen in his letter, the four men argued vehemently until the police came and arrested them all. FBI informant Orestes Pena was watching. FBI.
Oh. And it was outside of his bar 8 days before that. Allegedly, that another incident happened. Interesting.
No, he's in all the good spots.
Interesting.
FBI photographers were filming across the street. CIA FBI agent William Gaudet watched Oswald hand out the literature from his office. August 10th, during Oswald's short stint in jail, he spent the night overnight. This happened at about 4 p.m. on August 9th. Special Agent John Quigley reported that Oswald was desirous of seeing an agent and supplying to him information with regard to his activities with the Fair Play for Cuba Committee in New Orleans. Quigley took down everything Oswald gave him. After waiting for more than a month, Quigley revealed Oswald's defection to the USSR, blah, blah, blah. So August 16th, and I have a quick little video of this in a second. Oswald went out to leaflet again. So this is about less than a week after he gets released from being arrested for disturbing the peace or whatever that's called. From leafleting, he goes out again. And this was allegedly with Bannister's 544 Camp Street address stamped on his FPCC leaflets, which is very interesting because I had honestly thought that was before and Bannister had told him to knock it off. I didn't realize it was so kind of late in 63 that he had that on it, if this is true. He had some intriguing company at the site. The maintenance supervisor, Clay Shaw, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to go into a couple of witness statements here. We have first New Orleans patrolman Frank Hayward. This is an FBI report from November 30th, 1963 on the Fracas. And Patrolman Frank D. Wilson was riding in a patrol car. Frank Hayward was riding with Frank Wilson in a patrol car. He said they received a call that a crowd had gathered in the 700 block of Canal Street. He said that on their arrival, an individual later identified as Lee Harvey Oswald was observed to have been passing out leaflets concerning the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. He said the crowd was in an agitated mood. Wonder why? And that Oswald and 3 Cubans with whom he had appeared to be arguing with were arrested. He said there had been no fight, but that heated words were being exchanged among Oswald and the 3 Cubans. The rest of his statement, Hayward continued that Oswald appeared calm about his arrest and gave the impression that he was almost enthusiastic about going to jail. This is going to be kind of a common theme of this incident here. Patrolman Hayward said that he was present during the brief period of the booking of Oswald at the 1st District and that Oswald had never stated he was a communist. The Warren Commission was really kind of nailing down, did he say he was a communist or Marxist? Not sure why they were doing that, but Oswald was evasive. His answers seemed rehearsed and did not even relate to the questions asked. He said Oswald advised he was then unemployed and that Patrolman Hayward did not have any recollection. I'm sorry. He did not even relate to the questions asked and wanted to cooperate with the police. So That's interesting. And this next statement here, and I'm going to go pretty quickly here, but this is from one of the Cuban exiles with Bernier, Miguel Cruz, Mariano Cruz. And I'm going to skip to the end here. He continued that during the arguments, a crowd gathered and someone pushed Oswald, who dropped leaflets he was carrying. He said Oswald placed his hands behind his back and told Bernier to hit him. He said Bernier refused, and that it was approximately at this point that the New Orleans police arrived on the scene. So there wasn't a fight. Fracas doesn't kind of means like a disturbance, right? It wasn't a fight, and I think some people think it might have been more aggressive and physical than it was. But there were we're going to go through pretty much a few people here that say the same thing, that it was an argument and they did get arrested, and Oswald seemed to be enthusiastic about that.
Well, it's interesting that the police arrived so quickly. I mean, you got to figure these guys are just arguing in the street. Nobody's throwing a punch. It's been maybe 30 seconds and the cops are already there.
Yeah.
That's sus.
Yeah. And especially when you put it in context with the amount of arguments like that must have happened on Bourbon Street in the 60s, right? People yelling at each other in the street. That's
especially in the French Quarter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not that weird. So it is sus that people kind of converged on it really quickly, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. So we go next here.
Let me say hi to Paul in this little break. He's trucking on down the road. What's up, Paul?
Hey, Paul.
Happy you're along for the ride. Well, actually, we're along for your ride. So happy to be here.
So, Rob, we've talked about the Doyle film before on this podcast, which is kind of the other film of the Fracas side.
Sister film, if you will.
Of course, yes. From the John Thomas Martin film that, of course, we've gone over to death. But this is a statement from Jay. So Doyle was a young kid. I think he was like 14 or 15 who took that film. And of course, it was confiscated by the FBI and returned to them. And they thought it was edited or manipulated in some way. But this is his father's FBI statement from November 27, 63. At about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, August 9th, 1963, Mr. Doyle, Mr. Wilson, who was his kind of colleague in the electronics, they were going to convention together, were walking on Canal Street, approximately a quarter of a block behind Mrs. Doyle, Miss Wilson, and their two daughters. As they reached a point approximately in the middle of the block, some 5 blocks towards Mississippi River from the Jong Hotel, they observed 2 young men, who were carrying signs which bore pro-Cuban inscriptions. They had leaflets in their hands, again, plural. One of the men wore in his front a yellow and orange colored sign, which bore as the part of its inscription the words Viva la Fidel. Based on everyone else, that would be Lee Harvey Oswald. As Mr. Doyle, Mr. Wilson, and their 2 sons reached the scene, a group of persons who appeared to be Cubans took issue with the 2 demonstrators, and almost immediately, police officers arrived and prevented trouble. After a short discussion, the demonstrators were placed in the patrol car, again, plural, not the Cubans, by the officers and then taken from the scene. During the argument, a placard carried by the demonstrator not wearing the sign was smashed, and the leaflets were torn from the hands of the men and scattered on the sidewalk. The pieces of the placard were placed in the patrol car when the 2 men were taken away. Interesting. Motion pictures of the incident were taken by Jim Doyle, 14-year-old son of Mr. Pat Doyle.
Wow. So somebody was with Oswald, and that somebody that was with Oswald was arrested with Oswald, and you never hear about it. There's got to be a reason why. This is something that Garrison was looking at and trying to figure out who, and Harold Weisberg was interested in this too, trying to figure out who the guy was that was with Oswald. And they tried very hard to figure it out and find out, and they could not.
Yeah.
But very interesting that that person is also edited out of the Doyle film and the John T. Martin film.
Yep. And if you remember, Rob, Gary Schoner, when we were corresponding with him, when we asked him why didn't he pay more attention to the Walker part of the John T. Martin film, he was like, we were just trying to identify who was with Oswald on the latter part of the film.
Yeah, for Garrison and Weisberg. Yeah.
And that makes sense. I mean, so why then was there so much? I mean, he's not in the police reports. He didn't go to court. He's not in any of the other testimonies. What's the reason for hiding him when, as we see shortly, Oswald was back out there a few days later giving out more leaflets, and we do have video of that. And it's very clear that he has helpers. But what were they trying to hide with the helper on August 9th? I don't know.
Yeah, very, very strange. But anyway, that is the anniversary of the Street Fracas. We just figured we'd bring you a little bit of info about it.
Well, let me, I have a 54-second film, Rob, real quick.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is from the...
Make it full screen, though.
Yeah, I will. I want to give credit to Helmer Reenberg, the YouTube JFK website, who has a lot of great videos. You know, we got to give them credit.
Yes,
so.
he's a big fan of the show. What's up, Helmer?
Hey, thank you for compiling all these. So this is, again, August 16th. We're talking about a week after. Here we go.
This is the first of a series of Latin listening post interviews with persons more or less directly concerned with the conflict between the United States and Cuba. In subsequent programs, we will present talks with people who are connected with the Cuban refugee organizations, people who are connected with President Batista, and U.S. citizens with direct stakes in the outcome of the Cuban situation. Tonight we have with us a representative of probably the most controversial organization connected with Cuba in this country. The organization, the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. The person, Lee Oswald, Secretary of the New Orleans Chapter to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. This organization has long been on the Justice Department's blacklist and is a group which is generally considered to be the leading pro-Castro body in the nation.
That's pretty good quality there when you can compare it to the other films, huh?
Yeah, good stuff.
So then you got to wonder, why is that such good quality? I mean, I guess it was the news station, right? But how did they know? Were they just perusing the streets and they see Oswald again? Or he went to do the first radio interview?
Well, we talked about this before on the show, or I did, one of the two. It was that dude that worked in the Trade Mart, Jimmy Core, or James Core. He's the one that tipped off WDSU. There was a guy that worked in the Trade Mart. He saw Oswald handing out leaflets in front of the Trade Mart, so he called the radio, the TV station, and they came right over.
Yeah,
because they were close by. I think they were like across the street, or maybe up and around the corner or something. They weren't too far away, but and he knew somebody there. But so yeah, very, very suspect stuff there.
Very sus. So
shizzy.
60. You know, we've covered obviously a lot of aspects, including the videos, but let us know in the comments here. Was it staged? Do you think it was genuinely the Cuban exiles were pissed at Oswald because he was kind of playing both sides? I'm kind of moving away from the CIA against CIA type of infiltration. I saw that. That's funny. And it obviously it didn't deter Oswald because he was back out there a few days later. Then he was going on the radio, and then obviously carte blanche with the Inca guy, Butler, and Brignier. So, I mean, this was a coordinated PR effort, and I don't know who coordinated it, but
This
crazy.
is interesting, Joe. Hold on.
Sure.
So Turn Horse brings up, what's the proof of the 544 Camp Street stamp on the flyer? Well, I admit that I was told one thing by, oh man, now I get it right off the bat. So, who's the lone nutter I have on my show? I was a teenage conspiracy freak. Fred Litwin.
Mhm.
Fred Litwin said that none of these pamphlets contained 544 Camp Street, and it was just done for the movie JFK. But that is, in fact, not true.
Yeah.
There is evidence, and Garrison had it from back then, that he did have 544 Camp Street stamped on the flyers. And as Joe said, it was more than likely the August 16th flyers that had it on there. The first ones had his address.
Yeah.
Because Carlos Quiroga went to visit him before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is true that Lee Oswald had 544 Camp Street on those pamphlets on August 16th.
Yep. Bill Simpich in that little outline on my first slide said that the August 16th flyers did have the 544 Camp Street on it. And, Bill Simpich is going to have that backed up and documented, and it's all
5 ways from Sunday, Turn.
Yeah. But that's an even weirder question, because then why, if say 544 Camp wasn't on it on August 9th, why would you put it on there for August 16th after you get arrested? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think there are some still out there, for sure.
Are somewhat.
I know the 544 Camp Street flyers. I don't know if they still don't exist. There's at least photos of them, contemporaneous photos of them.
I got one right here, sir. No, but I'm saying, why would the August 9th flyers not have 544 Camp on them? But after you get arrested, because in the JFK movie, wasn't there a scene where Bannister was like, knock it off, don't put that address on the flyers type of thing?
Well, again, we're talking about a Hollywood movie here.
No, I know, but why in that week after you get arrested would you then put Bannister's office on the flyers?
Well, that's the $1 million question.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, though. So 61 years ago today.
Probably Sally. She claims to have a lot of things that aren't wrong. She may have picked it out of Oliver Stone's pocket when she was giving him a full body hug. But yeah, okay. So yeah, that was our little homage to the anniversary that is. And now we're going to get into the part of the show that we're all here for, and that is the many heights of Lee Oswald. And this is about, folks, as close of an episode you're going to get to the Lone Gunman podcast doing Harvey and Lee. Okay? There's been many requests throughout the years for us to talk about Harvey and Lee, or, all of this stuff. But trust me, it is a deep, deep topic. One of which, look, neither one of us is John Armstrong. I would just say, if you're that interested, get the book, get the documents. It is what it is. Part of the height discrepancy, and it's not just height, but part of the height discrepancies is what fuels the premise for the book Harvey and Lee, because we have all these witnesses saying that Oswald is a certain height. We have all these witnesses saying that he has these different color eyes, different color hair. 165, and some say 135, which is a 30-pound difference, which is pretty decent. Although I would say either one of those is a very lightweight male. Maybe not in 1963, but today, you know, I could probably pick Oswald up over my head and toss him over the fence. You know what I'm saying? But just to give you guys an idea about some of Oswald's different height discrepancies and where they come from, I came across a November 14th, 1968 memorandum to Jim Garrison from Lou Ivon. And it says, "You wanted to know when Oswald was how tall and where. Here it goes. This list is far from complete, but I'll give you what I've gotten together so far. So, in volume 20 of the Warren Commission files, or whatever they're called, page 277, Priscilla McMillan Johnson notes in Russia in 1959 that she says Oswald was 5'11" with brown hair, gray eyes, and 150 pounds. Volume 11, page 89, Carrie Thornley describes Oswald as being about 5'5", 140 pounds, possibly 130, gray or blue eyes, hair tending to bald a little on each side, and sloppy habits. Now, either Carrie Thornley is seriously effing with somebody here, because 5'5" is way off. I mean, way off. So either he's effing with them, or he never met Oswald. One of the two, and he's just guessing. My guess, knowing Carrie Thornley's personality, he's screwing with somebody, namely the Warren Commission. And for what's the reason, I don't know. On volume 11, page 221, Pamela Mumford, speaking of recognizing Oswald from the picture on television and how her traveling companion recognized him, but she said the thinning hair on top, the thinning, curling, wiry hair, and this is from the 1963 Mexico trip. No height given. Volume 16 of the Warren Commission, page 622, Oswald's application for the Albert Schweitzer College, Joe. Written by him. Under land of birth, he answers America. Ordinarily, an American would put USA. His height on the application he gave as 5'11", 160. So this is allegedly Lee Harvey Oswald in 1959 on his application for Albert Schweitzer College, allegedly written by him. He puts 5'11", 160. Now this little coy descriptor here is basically insinuating that somebody else filled out this application for Oswald. Volume 16, page 483 of the Warren Commission report, application for Texas driver's license. He gives a height as 5'9", weight 146. Okay, volume 9, page 238. George de Mohrenschildt told George Bowie, "Don't be scared of him. He's just as small as you are." Mr. Jenner then said, "Yes, but George Bowie is a very small man," insinuating that Oswald was somewhere around 5'5", 5'6". Volume 18, page 390 or 388, Marguerite Oswald described her son Lee as 5'10", 165, eyes blue, hair light brown and wavy. This was a description given in 1960, and she had last seen him when he got his hardship discharge and come home for a couple of days. Marguerite is a tiny woman, and any man of 5'10" or 5'11" would look large to her. I can't tell from this report of Fane's where Marguerite got the description, from a document or from her memory. Interesting. Volume 26, page 7, from the court case record face sheet made at the time of Lee Harvey Oswald's arrival back in New York on June 13, 1962. Get this one. Slim, 5'6". Page 8. Upon boarding ship, I tried to locate Mr. Oswald and his family. He was already cleared by immigration. He was wearing a gray suit, light blue tie, and about 5.5 feet tall. That's from Spa's ranking. God.
Wow.
A lot of discrepancies here, folks. Volume 23, page 741, an application for employment from July 13th, 1962, he gave his height as 5'9". Page 743, on his selective service registration.
What date in 62?
July 13th.
Okay, so a month after he got back from the Mazda.
Yeah, I guess he was looking for a job, and that's what he wrote down. 5'9".
I didn't hear you.
Selective service registration card, height 5'11", hair brown, eyes blue, weight 150. Date of this is September 14th, 1959. From page 744, report of transfer of discharge, height 71 inches, which equals 5'11". It's, I think, doesn't? Yeah. This is dated October 12th, 1959. From page 745 is an application for employment at Gold Rings in New Orleans. Height 5'9". I find it interesting that under the in case of accident, send word to, he gives the Moretz address, but gives the name Oswald and parents as the relationship. Okay. Page 747, another application for employment on October 15th, 1963. He gives his height as 5'9". Page 752, application for employment on October the 4th, 63. This was after he came back from Mexico and stayed at the YMCA on the night of the 3rd, and before he appeared out in Irving, gave his height as 5'9". Page 753, application for employment in New Orleans, height 5'9". Page 819, on his passport from June 25th, 1963, height 5'11". Volume 19, page 584, the medical examination in September of 59 in the service gives height as 71 inches, which is 5'11". Weight 150, hair brown, eyes gray. His build is given as medium rather than slender. This examination was on his release from active duty. This 5'11" Marine then went and got a passport on which his height still is 5'11". Shows up in Russia and has pictures taken with Marina, who is a little girl, 5'2". His pictures do not show him towering over as he would if he were the same person who had been in the Marines.
Wait, Marina's 5'2"?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. And if you look at all the pictures with Oswald and Marina out there together, he's not towering over by,
right,
8 inches.
Right.
9 inches. Which lends credence to the Harvey and Lee theory that the person that went to Russia and came back is not the same person that was in the Marines. So, valid argument there. And then Priscilla McMillan Johnson, I think we said this before, but the newspaper woman who interviewed Lee Harvey Oswald reports him as 5'11" with brown hair and gray eyes. It's interesting that the taller Oswald is the gray-eyed one and the shorter one has blue eyes. This is a pretty consistent pattern through the descriptions. Marguerite describes him as blue-eyed and having light brown, wavy hair. The Oswald who entered the United States in New York was 5'6" and couldn't possibly be 5'11", even allowing for a couple of inches mistake.
That's a big difference, 5 inches. That's half a foot.
Yeah. Volume 19, page 615, on his enlistment physical exam in 1956, he is 68 inches, or 5'8", 131. He probably grew a little bit after entering the service because he was just 17 when he went in. Volume 27, page 730. Report of John Fain says that the following description of Oswald was obtained through observation and interrogation. So, John Fain, FBI agent, gives Oswald's height as 5'11", eyes gray, hair brown. And this is from his first meeting with Oswald, June 26, 62 in Fort Worth. So, we have a 5'6" Oswald coming back into the U.S., going to Robert's house at Fort Worth, and growing 5 inches in time to be observed by John Fain 13 days later. Okay. Can't make this stuff up, folks. But we're not done yet. Volume 19, page 397. A Texas Employment Commission document, October 62, height 5'9", weight 150. Volume 18, page 482. Let me throw this in here as long as I just now came across it and may forget it. This thing is apparently Marina's own description of herself. You will notice that it says height 150 centimeters, which equals 5 feet. Interesting. I'm 5'2" in heels, Joe.
Yeah. Did she understand the difference of the different like metrics?
Probably. See if you can read the original on the opposite page. Blah, blah, blah. It's awfully pale in the book. Volume 18, page 437. Pardon me. Here's a peculiar mistake under number 3, New Orleans, Texas, given as a place of birth. You ever been to New Orleans, Texas, Joe?
I have not. I heard it's dope.
Yeah, it's a great place to visit. This mistake of Texas as place of birth occurs one other place, and that is in the Marine records. Donna Bededian, Exhibit Number 1, Volume 14, page 607 at the very bottom of the page. Oswald himself wouldn't have made this mistake, but a foreign fellow impersonating him might have. Volume 18, page 161 on his 59 passport, height 5'11", brown hair, gray eyes. Volume 18, page 143, the last paragraph of the letter contains an interesting statement. Rusk, the writer of the letter, says it is assumed that there is no doubt that the person who has been in communication with the embassy is the person who is a passport, or who has a passport in the name of Lee Harvey Oswald. See early Hoover memo about someone impersonating Lee Oswald and using his passport and birth certificate. Volume 22, page 828, the New Orleans PD. Identification, August 14th, on the occasion of arrest, we just talked about here, folks. Gave his height as 5'9", eyes brown, complexion ruddy. Weight 136. There's an affidavit by Martello in which he says that an arrest of a person, he is simply asked questions about his height and weight, but that on booking of a person, he is measured and weighed. I think that is interesting that such an affidavit was even taken on the subject. Someone besides me noticed all this height business but chose to skip over it. I know that this is erratically written, but if I had gotten it done in any order, heaven knows when I would have gotten the information to you. I suggest you go through this, taking all the 5'9" and their dates and all the 5'11" and their dates, and you'll see that a fellow who went to the Marines at 5'8" came out supposedly grown to 5'11" in September of 59. He then applied for a passport on which his height is still 5'11". I find no description of his height while in Russia, although, except for the Priscilla Johnson thing, a 5'6" Lee Oswald comes back to the United States, becomes 5'11" when interviewed by John Fain, and then shrinks until his passport of June 63 when he sprouts the other 2 inches again. What this all means is anybody's guess, and my guess is that the impersonation started in the Marines. Kerry Thornley said the Oswald he knew was 5'5". So let's say that he knew the Lee Harvey Oswald that went into the Marines as 5'8", but looked smaller. Bill Boxley said that the CIA has successfully put over impersonations so that even mothers were fooled. Please remember that Marguerite wanted to believe that her son had come back to her. She was crushed when he defected and needed to believe that this was the same. This person that came back from Russia was her son.
Okay.
So very interesting stuff. You have varying heights from 5'5", 5'6", 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", and 5'11". And like I said, that's from about, what I say before, Joe, 28, when I counted them up, 28 different instances.
Crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah. And
now,
I want to
show you.
Okay.
I'm going to show you a couple pictures here.
We had a couple questions in terms of should it be possible to approximate this height by the passing out of flyers movie. I think the one we showed earlier, comparing to a traffic light or something. That would be hard, but I think we have better things to put him up against, like a lot of the DPD officers. His DPD mugshot should have had his height behind him. No, and that's leaving it off to you.
Well, he was arrested on August 9th after this thing, and he was given a booking photo. Okay? But the first one we're going to look at, and we'll get there, Turin Horse. Trust me. First off, let's look at this one of Lee Harvey Oswald. And this is when he first entered the Marines. Now, what you don't see here is his actual height because it's cropped. And this is the picture that people find most often. So I found an uncropped version.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
59.
5'9". Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay.
Huh?
Yeah. Got it.
Well, I mean, you know, I guess if they take it. I mean,
No, I was
how much
looking
hair
I
is
was
up
thinking
there?
it was in inches. I'm sorry. You're right. You're good.
Yeah, no, this is just, it's in feet.
Got it.
So this is Oswald in the Marines. I don't know if this is when he first went in.
It looks like
They
it.
said he was 5'8". And I don't know if they take off a little bit for the hair. Or,
He has a crew cut there.
yeah, I mean, he looks like he's a legit 5'9".
Yep.
Like
Based
right
on
on
this
the line.
Based on this photo.
Yeah. So then we have Oswald that was arrested in New Orleans. And as you can see from this photo here, they took a close-up of a side view, a front view, and then a full body shot with his sexy-looking hips there, his little swishy hips. But now what you can't really see in this photo is how tall he is. So I zoomed in as much as I could. Okay.
That's 5'9" or 5'10". You see the 2, 4, 6, the 0 that is probably the 8, and then above it is probably 5'10", which means he might have grown an inch since 5'9", is my initial reaction from this photo.
Yeah, this is a 5. Let's see, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, this is a 5'10" in New Orleans. Okay. Now you got to remember, for this photo, we can see from this photo that Oswald is wearing shoes in this photo. Okay. So
that could be an inch.
That could be an inch, which would shrink him back down to 5'9".
Yep.
Right. Now, what we don't know is how, and maybe somebody out there knows, but how the Marines or any of the armed services figures out your height. Are you in boots or do they make you do it barefoot? I know Trey was in the Air Force. Maybe he can answer that. But
I wouldn't think that they measure your height with boots on, but who knows? I mean, in the Army, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did back then. Maybe they don't now. But
yeah, possibly.
So check this one out. So this is a poster of the evolution of Lee Harvey Oswald. It's got about just about every photograph known of Oswald, starting when he was a young child up until Jack Ruby shot him. And when you're talking about the Harvey and Lee thing, or an Oswald double, or someone impersonating Oswald, you know, there is a lot of fuel for that fire, because some of these photos of Oswald don't look like Oswald. Some of them, you can tell there's very obvious different facial features, especially the chin. The chin is a big, big red flag on some of this stuff. You might be able to see it a little better here in this one, the many faces of Lee Harvey Oswald. Okay. In the middle, or actually on the top, we have his entrance into the Marine Corps photo where he has a very pointy looking chin, Joe. See the top row? Very pointy chin.
No.
And then the middle row, he has a very square looking chin. It's not pointy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the bottom, it looks like a cleft chin. Very weird. But this is what fuels the suspicions of an Oswald impersonator.
But can you go back one second, Rob, to that other photo? And I'm not trying to poo-poo here, but if you look at it, his left side as in like the right side, as we look at it here, seems to be a similar hairline in all of them. And I'm not looking at the chin, I'm just looking at the hairline. It seems like there's a little like receding hairline, a little more on the right. I don't know if the way it's combed. It seems kind of consistent.
No, I get that.
And I'm just pointing that out just objectively. I'm like very not decided on the whole Harvey and Lee thing. But we have to look at the chin, you have to look at the hairline, the ears, the nose. But the chin definitely looks different for sure.
So here's a bunch of other photos of Oswald from various times of his life.
Does he have a mustache in the middle in the second row?
No, well, that's one. That's an interesting photo that people love to point out of Oswald. Well, this was taken when he was in the Marines, supposedly, and this was a picture that ran in a newspaper of Lee Harvey Oswald. And I don't know if it was just one of those things where, like, local boy joins the Marines or local Marine defects to Russia type thing. And this was like some file photo they had of Oswald, but it's a very odd one for sure. Very weird looking version of Lee Harvey Oswald. And there's a couple of weird versions of Lee Harvey Oswald. Like the one at the bottom, second from the right.
Yeah, I see that. In the black.
That's an odd one. And that's supposedly legit. That's from his brother Robert's book as a picture of Lee when he was like 16 or 17. The full body picture, I think they were hunting. He has a rifle between his legs. But that's another odd picture. And then we got this stuff. Again, this goes year by year. Okay, so starting at the left, 1952 at the top. At the bottom, 1953, that's the Bronx Zoo photo. 1954, that's from a yearbook photo where Oswald's missing a tooth. The other bottom photo is from 1954 as well. Then the top one is 56, I guess when he first got his Marine photo taken. Or maybe that can't be right. He didn't go into the Marines in 56, unless that's a cap photo. I don't know. Or Armstrong got the date wrong. I don't know. But at the bottom, you have 56 again when he's in high school and talking to his science girlfriend, not Judith Mary Baker. And then we got the top 57 again. And then at the bottom, his fresh face, big helmet, dopey looking Lee Oswald. And then 1958 at the top. That is supposedly a picture. And I think this one is from Robert's book as well. When Lee was home on leave from the Marines and they went hunting. That looks nothing like Lee Harvey Oswald, bro. Nothing.
Yeah. The hairline is significantly different.
It is whacked. It looked like somebody drew like a poof or something on top of his head. I don't know.
Or he got a weird haircut at the Queen Bee.
Yeah, that's bad. Very bad.
Yeah.
Now, underneath that, there's one from 1958, and this is supposedly Oswald, but it looks like he has a beard. Do you see what I'm seeing? Or maybe it's just the shadow on his face?
Which one?
The 1958 on the bottom.
I don't think that's a beard. It could be some scruff.
It might be a shadow or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It could be a little scruff. I'm not sure if it's a beard because there's none on the chin. It seems white.
Yeah. Then we got a top passport photo, 1959. And then below that, I'm home for a couple days, Lee Oswald, 1959.
Yeah.
Right out of the Marines. Seems like his hair is growing out a little bit there. But weirdly enough, he was only home for 3 days before he left to go to Europe. But if his hair had grown out that much, I mean, I don't know. Very weird stuff going on here. And then,
hey, Rob,
course,
I have something to add on this. And this is
yes.
right up Garden and Guns alley. Because every once in a while, I look on Facebook, right? I mean, Facebook, on eBay to see like what JFK stuff is out there. And this happens to be a 1957 Lee Harvey Oswald yearbook. We almost have enough super chats, $1,000 to get it.
$1,000,
bro. Yeah, it's crazy. But this is apparently a Fort Worth thing of Lee Harvey Oswald. This is obviously.
He better have signed that thing in blood for $1,000.
Well, I know, but things on eBay are crazily priced, right? So it's just, I was just perusing here. It looks like a legit. It looks like a legit yearbook, and that's why I'm shouting out Garden and Guns.
Oh yeah,
because I follow her Twitter, and but very interesting that, and I don't know if these pictures are available or just not in that thing that you shared, but very interesting nonetheless. I mean, what is?
Well, yeah, that's the one I said was with his science girlfriend. If you go to your left, Joe, where all the other pictures are, go to the very bottom picture. It'll blow that one up.
Yeah, this one?
Yeah. And it says, bing, you're hypnotized. If Joe stops moving the goddamn screen.
Yeah, sorry. That's, you're right. Is that his science girlfriend? Janet Bolin?
Yeah, I was joking.
Oh, okay.
It's not Judy.
No, I know. Oh, wow. Sorry. I don't know if anyone else. I think that's the only picture of Lee there, but yeah, no, you're being hypnotized, which is of course very sus when we talk about
And unless, I mean, girls in high school aren't normally 5'9" or 5'10", and that chick was maybe an inch shorter than Oswald. So is that a version of the 5'5", 5'6" Oswald? I don't know. But another one's interesting is if you take half of a person's face and flip it, right? They're flopped. So it should give you like a proportionate version of a person.
Right.
So what's interesting is on the left-hand side, it is the right side of the face flopped and mirrored. And on the right side is the left half of the face flipped and mirrored. And they look like two totally different people. Isn't that crazy? The one on the right looks more like,
Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah.
The one on the left looks like a giant neck brute. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look at that neck.
Very, very weird.
Yeah. He was.
And then, of course, we have this famous John Armstrong, Harvey and Lee photo that is apparently, to me, I agree, it looks photoshopped as hell, or what their version of a Photoshop was back then. Because, I mean, even the tie looks split on the one on the right.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a crazy picture of Lee Harvey Oswald. It's got to be a composite.
Yeah.
I mean, you can almost look at his face on the right and see where it's split, like a little diagonally.
He looks older on the right. He looks older on the right. The left looks significantly younger, in my opinion. Maybe it's
Yeah,
the
it
shadows,
is.
but
It's a very weird picture. Very weird.
you know.
So,
And we have to be careful when comparing side by sides like that, because you know you can make something pretty compelling by comparing two pictures, say taken at a different angle or light or whatever. I just think we have to have some caution with every side by side, because they can be made to look like it's not the right person based on different photos.
well, that's the same photo. But
Well, you know what I mean. Yeah.
I don't. But okay, let's move on. Okay. Now, what also lends credence to the Harvey and Lee theory, folks, is this here document from December 2nd, 1963. Fred Moore of Dallas, Texas, employed as a clerk at the Jiffy store at 310 South Industrial, Dallas, Texas, advised of the following concerning a report that he'd waited on Lee Harvey Oswald as a customer at the Jiffy store at about 8:30 in the morning and again later in the morning on November 22nd, 1963. Now, we know that Lee Harvey Oswald was working at the book depository at these times. So, identification of this individual as Oswald, Moore said, arose when he asked him for ID as to proof of his age for the purchase of 2 bottles of beer. Moore said he figured the man was over 21, but the store frequently requires proof by reason of past difficulties with local authorities for serving beer to minors. Much of the beer sold is consumed on the premises. When asked for identification, this customer in question said, "Sure, I got ID," and pulled a Texas driver's license from his billfold, which Oswald allegedly did not have one. Moore said that he noted the name appeared as Lee Oswald, or possibly H. Lee Oswald. He remembered this particularly, he said, as moments later he had remarked to George Worthington, the store manager who came into the rear of the store after this individual left, that Lee Oswald was a good Jewish name. As Moore recalled, the birth date on the license was 1939, and he thought it to have been the 10th of the month. Further identification of this individual as Oswald, Moore said, arose when he had seen Oswald on television in the course of his travel from the DPD prior to being shot by Ruby. At this time, he recalled the name and identification of Oswald as the customer in his store on the previous day. Now, that's a pretty good eyewitness statement there, Joe. But it highly conflicts with the narrative. Okay? So when shown a photograph of Oswald from the New Orleans Police Department, dated August 9th, 1963, however, Moore said that the man in the store appeared to have been thinner in the face. Moore described this individual as follows: race white, male, about 21, 5'8", 5'9", 150 pounds, dark hair, hollowed cheeks, tight shirt, other description of which not recalled, a sweater of which color and type unknown, no hat, no glasses. The time of Oswald's presence in the store on the morning of Friday, Moore said, was difficult to place. He came in and departed before the manager, George, had come to work, usually this being between 9 and 10. Moore had the television turned on, and this occurrence was prior to the president's arrival at Love Field. The individual whom Moore considered to be Oswald entered the store alone, approaching from a side street. While in the store, this individual purchased 2 bottles of beer, either Pearl or Jack's, in throwaway bottles at 25 cents each, which he paid for with the dollar bill or change. He took the beer from the store, but returned in less than 30 minutes to buy 2 pieces of Pico brittle at 5 cents apiece, which he ate on the premises. Moore remarked to him in the form of a question, "Candy and beer?" as he considered this to be an odd combination. This is another reason for his recollection. The man seemed to be nervous while in the store, pacing the aisles as he ate the candy. Several other persons were in the store at this time and saw this individual. So, Joe, I got curious. Where the hell is this store at, right?
Yeah.
Well, 310 South Industrial does not exist anymore. The street name has been changed to North and South Waterfront Boulevard. Okay? Now, if you look on this map, the section I have circled on the right is the 6th floor museum at Dealey Plaza, where it is now. You can see where Dealey Plaza is from the, converging 3 streams of traffic there. Now, what this does is it goes, of course, over through Commerce Street, and you would make a right on what was then Industrial to get to the Jiffy store. Now, if you looked all the way at the left, okay, you got to go across the Trinity River to get to North Beckley Avenue, where Oswald was staying. That's where his rooming house was. So this kind of gives you an idea of where this Jiffy Mart was. Okay? Now, is it possible that Oswald could have left sometime in the morning of the 22nd and walked all the way to the store to get beer and Pico Brittle? Doubtful. But somebody who was going to be involved in the assassination using a Lee Harvey Oswald identification, false identification, surely was pretty damn close to Dealey Plaza that morning before the shooting. Maybe having a couple beers to calm his nerves and a little bit of Pico Brittle, to calm his stomach a little bit.
And Rob, so the fact that you said he was nervous, right? He had to have a couple beers, right? Something to eat to calm himself down. From everything we've heard from even when Oswald was arrested after the Texas Theater, and like we went over a few minutes ago, and when he was arrested in New Orleans, he was very calm. Everyone was like, it was almost rehearsed. Nothing,
And by all accounts, Oswald didn't drink. So,
right. At least very little. Maybe back in.
But knowing that he was at work this day, whoever was in the Jiffy Mart had false Oswald identification, which is interesting.
I'm saying it's not consistent with his character to be super nervous.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is this could be the guy that shot Tippett and threw down the fake Oswald wallet.
For sure. 100%.
Possible.
And Rob.
Now, this is what.
Okay.
Yes.
Continue. Go. No, you're good. Go.
I'm trying, Joe. I'm trying to continue. This is the current location of the Jiffy Mart in Dallas. And it is by 2 bail bonds place on the right. It is now a law office, I guess, for recently released criminals from jail. But this is where the Jiffy Mart stood in the shadows of the buildings of Dallas, of the big tall buildings of Dallas. So very interesting stuff there for Sheezy. Now, Joe, what would you like to say, sir?
I was going to say, could you go back a couple slides to that 5859 dark hair description you had of Oswald? It was like 2 or 3 things back. It was from the New Orleans arrest, because I had shared something with you before the show that I found a description of Oswald based on his Marine ID when he was arrested, and it's very different. And I guess I'll show mine real quick.
Well, you show me yours, and then I'll show you mine.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Calm down, chat.
Yeah, right. Calm down, TD. I'm just kidding. All right.
Hey, now.
So this is the U.S. Marine Corps ID found on August 9th, arrest by New Orleans PD. And It says 5'9", 140 pounds, slender, light brown hair, and I think yours it said dark hair, blue hazel eyes. And I guess the hair is different, and it sticks out to me, and I'm not sure if his hair had changed from possibly when this Marine Corps ID was taken. It says 56 to 59. I don't know when it was taken still, but it seems like different descriptions from the same arrest in New Orleans had different heights as well, and color of hair and weight. So you can't even get that right. I mean, they can't even get that consistent. So,
well, old slacker, they don't call me Big Bad Bob for nothing.
Hey, old slacker, how are you?
Hey, buddy. Uh-oh.
I know I didn't see it. What was it?
And of course, this day, which
I missed it. I'm sorry.
November 22nd, right after the shooting, that witnesses see J.D. Tippett at the Gloco station on the other side of the Houston Street Viaduct, which is over here somewhere near this store, or at least on the way to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's all sketchy.
Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about a doppelganger, okay, or an impersonator, if you will. It's been a long time since we talked about Larry Crafard on this show. But let's bring up some very interesting things that Larry Crafard and Lee Harvey Oswald have in common, folks. And this was from the Continuing Inquiry newsletter many, many moons ago by Brian Burton. I don't have an exact date, but he says, as far as I know, it was Joachim Yosten who first alleged that Jack Ruby's factotum, Larry Crafard, was the second Oswald in his book, Oswald the Truth, 1967. And that's true. I read that book, and it may or may not be in the TSBD over on Locals. If the photos reproduced in the hearings are authentic, Crafard was hardly Oswald's double. Nonetheless, he was sufficiently similar to Oswald in build and coloration for Ruth Payne, mainly on the basis of a color photo reproduced as CE453, to testify that, quote, Crafard's photograph bears a strong resemblance to Oswald. And for honest and uncommitted witnesses such as Robert Patterson, retrospectively to identify Crafard as Oswald. Coincidentally, both men had small scars on their upper lips. In Oswald's autopsy report, we read, midline upper lip terminating at the vermilion margin is a 1/4 of an inch pale scar. In an FBI profile of Crafard, we read, scars, 1/2 inch scar, center of upper lip. Interesting. Quite apart, however, from these physical similarities is a strange series of coincidences which strongly suggest conspiratorial interaction. All right, let's get into some conspiracy theories. According to the FBI profile cited above, Crafard joined the Army in September of 1958, received a general discharge barely a year later on November 10, 1959. In early November 1959, Oswald was in Moscow and had begun to announce to relations and journalists that the Russian authorities had finally agreed to allow him to stay in the Soviet Union. So Crafard got his discharge on November 10th, 1959. Oswald got his discharge on 9/11/59, 1 month previous to Crafard. During April through June 1961, Crafard, allegedly an itinerant laborer and carnival worker whose usual stomping grounds were Michigan and Oregon. What's up, Colleen? Came to Dallas to work for the Tier Plating Company. This was a crucial period for Oswald, as he had already announced his intention to leave the Soviet Union. In April, he met and subsequently married Marina Priscilla, and throughout May and June, he was making urgent efforts to secure permission to return to the USA with his old lady, or wife, sorry. Number 3, on June 13, 1962, Oswald and his family returned to the USA, and on the 14th, he was welcomed by his brother Robert at Love Field. Exactly 2 days later, Crafard consolidated his Dallas connection by marrying his girlfriend, Wilma Heaney. Wilma Heaney. Crafard's marriage of convenience, ? Did not prosper, and according to the relevant FBI report of CE 5226, it finally broke up in June of 63. Quote, as his wife was a lesbian, unquote.
Crafard?
She would just eat him and stuff, Joe.
Crafard?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. I didn't know he was married.
Yeah, to a lesbian. Lucky man.
He would eat him and stuff.
Reminds you of certain rumors about Lee's problems with Marina? ? 5. Nonetheless, Larry first went to Dallas in March of 63 to attempt a reconciliation with Wilma. In March of 63 marked a new phase in the fortunes of Oswald and his family. They met and became intimate with Ruth and Michael Payne. More significantly, perhaps, it was on March 12th that the Carcano rifle was ordered under the name of A.J. Heidel. So far, if we are to accept the accounts of the Warren Report and the FBI, Crafard had visited Dallas twice and had significant marriage with a Dallas resident once. Each of these occasions coincided with a crucial phase in Oswald's fortunes. Number 6. Crafard next turned up in Dallas on 15 October 63. According to CE 5226, he was employed as a roustabout in connection with the Texas State Fair. And according to the Warren Report, he took up immediate employment with Jack Ruby. Either way, he arrived in Dallas exactly 1 day before Oswald began working at the School Book Depository, which is interesting. 7. Shortly after the assassination, Crafard decided to leave Dallas. You think? Whether he left on Saturday the 23rd, as alleged, or on Sunday the 24th, after Ruby had shot Oswald, is by no means certain. But what I've looked into is he left Saturday morning. And that's when he left. But we are left with the series of very strange coincidences, which, what part, if any, Crafard played in the assassination of JFK remains uncertain. Some clue, perhaps, is provided by a remark by Penn Jones in Forgive My Guilt 4, excuse me, concerning Crafard's testimony before the Warren Commission. Crafard's testimony is that of a trained agent. If the question was important, Crafard could remember nothing. If it was a trivial question, Crafard remembered every minute detail. And this is true. If you go back and look at the Warren Commission testimony, I believe the longest was Ruth Payne, and the second longest was Larry Crafard. Like 400 pages. It's insane.
More than DeMorshall?
Yeah. It seems extremely likely that Crafard was a quote, trained agent. As to his precise mission, the National Archives may, perhaps, one day provide a clue. P.S. On December 7, 1963, Billy Lee Beard was summoned to the Dallas FBI office in connection with his claim that he had seen Oswald at a turkey shoot in Irving. After scrutinizing 3 photos of Oswald, Beard left the office in the company of Agent Arthur Carter, who takes up the story as follows. When leaving the office, a young man was observed in the reception room of the Dallas office whom Mr. Beard remarked, "Boy, he sure looks like Oswald." Whoever the young man was, he could not have been Oswald, who was dead, nor could he have been Crafard, who was already on his way to Michigan, which is interesting. So, I think at the very least, Oswald or Crafard is responsible for a lot of these Oswald Ruby sightings together prior to the assassination. Mm-hmm. And you have all these other interesting things like, there was an Oswald that test drove a car to Lincoln Mercury. There was an Oswald and a Fraser seen at a gun range, just and acting weird and all these things to make him memorable to people at some point.
Yeah. I would say Crafard's more likely to be buying that beer and candy than Oswald, of course. But that just screams like a Crafard thing to me. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Or Shizzy. All right, so next up, Joe. Well, let's see if anybody's got any comments or questions real quick.
We got a few, sir. First of all, I want to get back to Tiny Dancer, and you could help me with this, Rob. Her question was, can you say who filmed the John Martin footage, and why do you think it was a 17-year-old ROTC student who filmed it himself on a trip to Dallas and New Orleans? Well, we've gone over this a lot, and I'm not saying I know exactly who filmed it. I'm just saying the theory that we put out there with this ROTC student going down to visit General Walker and then possibly getting asking, how can I help? And then getting steered to New Orleans and somehow catching the fracas on tape.
And you got to remember, we have Gary Schoner and Weisberg meeting this kid, okay, when in Minnesota, at the University of Minnesota, and getting the film directly from him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
not to mention, Rob, the FBI document of him giving it to them on December 63, getting it back January 64.
Yeah, so I don't really think this is a question of did he film it. I think there's a question of why he filmed it the way he did, which is suspect. And also begs the question of he thought that when he got his film back, it was edited, just like the Doyles did. Mm-hmm. And the question is what was taken out that we don't know of. But yeah, it's all crazy.
Yeah, it's our best guess. And we touched on it earlier. We think the part that might have identified Oswald's possible helper on August 9th with the other pro Castro demonstrator could be a reason. But Mr. Mike is giving you some shit, Triple B. He says he got to bust your balls again. The street called Riverfront Boulevard is called Riverfront, not Waterfront. But back in 1963, it would have been called Industrial Boulevard.
All right, man on the ground. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Always happy to have you bust my balls. And apparently, I said Ackerd wrong last week as a street in Dallas. And it's Ackerd. It's pronounced Ackerd. Or Ackerd, he says. It's pronounced Ackerd. I call it Ackerd.
Mm-hmm.
But we call that close enough, Mike.
Yeah. And Tiny, it was given to the FBI, like we just said, in the end of 63. It was given to Schoner and Weisberg, and not Severston in 68. It was, and also Garrison, right, Rob? Then the HSCA.
Well, Weisberg took it to Garrison, but
okay,
apparently John T. Martin had already sent a copy to Garrison prior to meeting Weisberg and Schoner when he heard about Garrison's investigation.
Yeah,
They had never done anything with it until Weisberg got down there.
Yeah. And I know where you're going with this, Tiny, with the red cell thing, and I'm very open to it. I'm just saying, like, there's a pretty comprehensive whatever
chain
the
of
word.
custody.
Yes,
It's a chain.
There we go. Thank you. Of
Yeah, I
throughout
think
the
we
years,
established
him giving his
in-
his film to other people, or Weisberg giving it to Garrison.
Yeah,
Do I know if he took it all himself? No. I mean, I have a certain amount of me that says it's been spliced together. I mean, I'm.
Yeah, I mean, his dad could have taken it. Who knows? Or his
Right.
little sister. Who knows? But he says he took it. He had custody of it. He gave it to Garrison. He gave it to Schoner and Weisberg. He gave it to the SCA. He gave it to the 6th floor. Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So moving forward a little bit here.
Yep.
Some interesting things. I came across from Volume 1 of the Continuing Inquiry, number 2, June 22nd, 1977, an article written called Oswald Double or Nothing by Suam Winona. My name, as given above, if you haven't already guessed, is anonymous, spelled backwards, Joe.
Really?
I see your dazed and confused look. Yes, yes.
No, I was
Really.
reading the chat. I'm sorry. Yes.
If you
Wow.
keep reading, perhaps you'll understand why I do not care to reveal my true name. Hopefully, my relating an incident from my experience may shed some measure of understanding upon the agent double agent hypothesis of Oswald's involvement in the assassination of JFK. Lee Harvey Oswald and I were the same age. We both joined the Marine Corps in '56, and were both granted secret security clearances in 1957. Oswald was trained in radar and electronics, while I was taught advanced marksmanship, demolitions, escape, evasion, and survival. And while Oswald was supposedly carrying out his defection in the Soviet Union, I was intensively studying the Russian language at the Army Language School in Monterey, California, where I recall seeing a Corporal Osborne, who bore a strong resemblance to Oswald as best as I can remember. I was then transferred to Western Europe, where I was quickly absorbed into the vast military intelligence community, having first been granted a top-secret cryptographic clearance. If there is any higher security clearance anywhere in use, I am happily unaware of it. For the greater part of 2 years, I was engaged in great pride, in spite of the fact that it resulted in one of the most bizarre experiences of my life. It happened in a little town along the 5-kilometer wide zone dividing East and West Germany during the time the Berlin Wall was being erected. I had been working in that area for about 6 months when I was suddenly, in the middle of the night, whisked away in the back of an army truck to a town many miles to the west of the border. I was immediately confined to quarters in the basement of a large building where one unit of the Army's Counterintelligence Corps was headquartered. My roommate was changed every 4 hours, and each of them were armed with .45 caliber automatic pistols. I received visitors at some of the oddest hours, and no sooner than I would drift off to sleep when a captain, a major, or a colonel would drop in to ask me the same monotonous questions. Was it true that I had frequented a certain guest house near the Army installation in that little town? Yes. Did the proprietor of the guest house introduce me to a 16-year-old German boy named Helmut? Yes. Did I converse with him often? Yes. Did I give him the weather station cover story to explain my activity in that area? Yes. Did he believe it? No way, Joe. No way. Helmut, the inquisitive high school boy who idolized American Marines, was a Soviet spy and actually a 23-year-old veteran of at least 3 years of spy activity, suspected of being a hermaphrodite or possibly a eunuch to account for this extremely youthful appearance, Joe.
Wait, a eunuch gives you a youthful appearance?
Apparently.
That's a new one.
You try it and let me know.
No, I'll leave that to you.
That was surprise number 1. Next up came at the end of 3 weeks of isolation when I was informed by Colonel, quote, Smith, that I have been totally vindicated, whatever. He then proceeded to give me the most incredible briefing I've ever received. He began by...
I bet.
He began by handing me a folder containing 4 8x10 glossies of Mark Lane's penis. No, I'm joking. It was like looking in the mirror. They were pictures of me, except for the clothes and the background of 2 of the pictures. I recognized them as photos of myself, but I had heard of composite pictures before. Surely that would explain it. No, the colonel said. They are not composites, and furthermore, they are not pictures of you. I sat stunned for several minutes, trying to absorb the impact of the colonel's words. I was staring at my double. In the next 40 minutes, the colonel introduced me to my Russian twin. He speaks better English than I do, and knows 10 times as much about America as I do. He has attended Syracuse University. He bears the same scars and tattoos that I have. And it is reasonably suspected that he knows all of my relatives and friends by name, if not by sight. Needless to say, this man had been trained and groomed to subvert my intelligence-gathering activities, and quite possibly had been prepared to ultimately assume my identity. Obviously, such an eventuality would necessitate my temporary or permanent removal from the area of operation. Due to this chilling fact, the colonel announced that my field work was at an end. I was quietly transferred to a distant locale where I was assigned a desk job in a huge, heavily guarded security complex. I do not know the fate of my double, but I strongly suspect that he has long since been snatched off the face of the earth. His status compromised. He may be working for us now, if he was working at all. So, merely telling of this experience does not fully convey all of the mind-boggling implications. Since my retirement several years ago, I've had ample time to consider a few other very potent possibilities. What if my double were not a Soviet agent at all, but actually one of ours? I only assumed he was the enemy. The colonel never said so. My double might have easily picked up where I left off in that friendly little town, baiting young Helmut into all kinds of interesting situations. 2 or more can play at that double game, which brings us back to Lee Harvey Oswald, who was admittedly just a patsy. Another word for patsy, which essentially describes the function of a double, is decoy. Even the name Alec James Heidel may be translated into a Russian phrase, Alec James of the sly and cunning affairs. The name Heidel appears to have been formed by taking the first syllables of 2 Russian words that I'm not going to even try to pronounce here, and combining them to make Heidel, Khidyel, which translates into English Heidel. This is a common method of forming names in Russian. The youth organization Komsomol, of which Marina Oswald had been a member of, was formed by combining the first syllables of 3 words, which I'm not going to try to pronounce here either.
Does it start
One
with
would almost
Libyan?
No, it starts with com. Komsomol.
Come?
Com.
Got it.
Com, not come. One would almost have to be in the spy business to fully appreciate this genius, one of the prerequisites for successful espionage. But yeah, it goes on and on and on. And if you really want to read all about this, go find the continuing inquiry from June of 1977. So what do you think about that, Joe? That we have a testimony from somebody who knew Oswald, okay, in the service, and then suddenly gets to meet his own doppelganger double when he's stationed in Germany and have his mind blown.
I mean, it gives credence to the Harvey and Lee theory, and it's very interesting. I don't doubt those type of things were going on at all.
I know. So let's talk a little bit about Priscilla Johnson's analysis of Oswald's height.
Okay.
So this is a conversation held in Garrison's office. It's a transcript. I believe Bill Boxley is there. Whoever is F, somebody named S. G is, of course, Garrison. But they go back and forth. They're all in a conversation about this. And they're talking about Priscilla Johnson. And Garrison says, it's a possibility. I think you have to say, but a real possibility. There's a real question about the photographs of Oswald in Russia, and he is definitely small. There's no getting away from that. Boxley says, yeah, shorter and stockier. F says, Priscilla Johnson, goddammit. Garrison, did she say he was small? Priscilla Johnson, despite the fact that I'm a very good friend of her brother's, will not even give me the courtesy of spending an evening and chatting. That's because she knew it wasn't the real Oswald over there. She saw him. Garrison says, well, that's a good point. Also, she's writing Marina's memoirs, and by God, Marina must have told her something. Garrison says, there's a case that Bill says no action means something. F, I'll tell you something, I can crack Priscilla Johnson. Garrison said, what did you have in mind? He said, I have in mind facing her with the fact that if she does not talk with me and tell me about this, that she's going to be pretty near the top of the list of being exposed as a bomb. It may be a great approach, Garrison says. She probably is a CIA agent because UP is all over that place. United Press. So Garrison called it.
Yeah.
The bitch was CIA. And it's come out since then that she was working for the CIA. So boom, There you go. Right? And it says, but sheer reaction may be some of value. As soon as you get a chance, look at our volumes tomorrow or Monday and look at the pictures of Alec, if you will, with Marina in Russia on the bridge. If this man is an inch over 5'6", I'll stand on my head. She's about 5'2", and he is small. That's Garrison talking. So very interesting stuff there.
Yeah. Very interesting indeed, sir.
Yeah. Well, let's take a little break and hop in the chat, Joe, if you will, for me. Why? Be right back.
Sure. Yeah, I saw your comments, Tiny Dancer. I will take a look at that when I'm not live and get back to you on that for sure. Have you seen, Sally, it's called Three Identical Strangers. They did split twins, triplets to do social experiments. I don't buy the Armstrong theory, but it's not completely ludicrous either. I have not seen Three Identical Strangers, but knowing how nefarious our intelligence communities are, I do not doubt in the slightest that they would have some type of operations like this, especially among, and I hate to say this, like lower, maybe like poorer type of people that have twins or triplets, where it might be easier to, say, split them and do these type of experiments for sure. I don't doubt it in the least at all. And so, when it comes to Oswald's height, Robert Webster was allegedly the description that came out on the radio was at the DPD initially matched Robert Webster's traits as 5'10", 165, brown wavy hair, blue eyes, although that is very similar to Oswald's as well. And also in the Tippett shooting, a description, a white male, 5'10", 160, 170 pounds, brown bushy hair was broadcast as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of... it's strange that Howard Brennan used the description of what seems to be Robert Webster as well. So there you go, Rob. You're back.
I'm back. Thank you. I had to see a man about a horse really quickly.
That's all good.
So, continuing on this Garrison conversation, if you will, here now.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're talking about a little something else about Marina. Garrison says, remember, she's swinging from the beginning as soon as she hits the States. And by swinging, it means what it still does back in 1963. And this is Garrison saying it. He says, she's with Carrie Thornley before Oswald is even dead. It's not just afterwards. She's going to the store with Thornley more than Oswald. Boxley says they had her under thumb ever since the assassination with Joe Grisafi, who was Joe Poole's campaign manager in Dallas. He put some money for Porter to get a liquor store. He put up the money for her to buy a home. He's ridden hard on her.
I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
What they say? Who put up money for Marina to get a home? Regardless, we've gone through
Joe
this.
Grisafi.
Yeah, we've gone through this with James Herbert Martin. They were getting tens of thousands, aka hundreds of thousands of dollars of mail-in donations, cash. They were signing book deals internationally, news exclusives, and they were selling it before. So I'm not sure if I believe that. I wanted to just hear.
Well, let me continue.
Sure.
Porter is her new husband.
Oh,
No, but who's this other man? Boxley says Grisafi. He's a 2-bit, well, not 2-bit, 6-bit politician hood in Dallas. How do you spell his name? Grizaffi. He owns the liquor stores where Marina's husband works. He owns it, and her husband is supposed to own it. Do you know where in Canada Porter flies? Yeah, he's flying to Calgary. He would make an overnight flight. Alberta has come up before. Somebody says it's warm in Tulsa. That's the Norton story. The password is warm in Tulsa. Oil employed by American Oil Company in Calgary. And they're just sitting around bullshitting. But then they say, I think that Priscilla McMillan Johnson may be our key to this thing. Boxley says that's right. She could blow the whole Duke. But I think we can also blow her as the world's biggest prostitute for sitting on what she's got. Boxley says she wouldn't have any conscience. I know, but she can also just be absolutely ruined for the rest of her life. I mean, nobody would ever believe one damn word she ever said from now on. She could be pictured as a real bum. She worked for Jack Kennedy. She interviewed Lee Harvey when he was there, and she's writing Marina's memoirs. Now, if Jack Kennedy was murdered by a whole bunch of people, and she's the one who's sitting on the truth, then she could be ruined.
Mm-hmm.
You have a point. There's got to be an approach to one of them. This sounds good.
Yeah. And I believe she sat on publishing the Me and Lee book for a few years. I'm not 100% on it, but I don't think she published
it. Didn't come out until like 77 or 78.
Right. And when she was writing it was when Porter met Marina, because we went over this on a previous episode when we dealt with Porter. It was kind of like after Marina came back from the University of Michigan thing, and Priscilla Johnson was living with her, and then Porter met her, and that was like mid to late 60s. So yeah, you're saying 70s. It did not come out, which makes you think, was it to kind of counteract the HSCA narrative, right? That was coming out. I believe it was shortly before then. Don't quote me on it, but interesting to ponder nonetheless.
Yep. So they're still sitting around talking, and now they're talking about Marina again. And Marina says that her American friends sent her Lucky Strike cigarettes when she was in Russia. Boxley says, well, who were her American friends? And previous to this, she couldn't speak English at all, allegedly, and then just out of the blue, she could put sentences together and be coherent. Boxley says, that's the biggest giveaway. She couldn't speak 3 words of English in a row visiting the Moret down here in the summer of 63. All she said was, me like, me no like. And that was the extent of her vocabulary. But out here at the lake in the late summer, she explained with perfect grammar that I used to smoke in Russia, but Lee doesn't like them for me to smoke here. As a matter of fact, some of my American friends in Russia used to get me Lucky Strike cigarettes. So, interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. They're still sitting around chatting. I just want to skimming for things. Oh, here we go. I came across this from a French article summarized by Thomas McLaughlin in 1966. Copies destroyed, 1973. I guess the FBI. But anyway, it is a summary from a French article done for the FBI. And what the French article says is interesting. It is a document entitled Paul Orlick Presents the Assassination of President Kennedy, or The Untouchables Against the Fourth Reich, or FBI Agents Against the United States Fascist Organizations, or The Plot Against the White House. I love it when these articles have 5 titles. It's okay. Just pick one, asshole. Okay. In this document, the author describes the, quote, real story of the assassination of President Kennedy in the following manner. On October 12, 1961, a man named Alec J. Heidel was released from the Marines. With the assistance of a former chief of the CIA, he pretended to be Lee Harvey Oswald. He was hired to do this by a well-directed organization. The best United States Marshals were then assigned to the case. They took fingerprints, reconstructed the crime scene according to the details of the Dallas police. They saw that the accusation against Oswald was false. The Marshals looked at photographs of the crowds about the motorcade to try to find out who the true killer was. They were surprised to see Oswald in the crowd viewing the presidential motorcade. Okay? The Dallas police told them that this was the only person who looked like Oswald. This was a good clue. On the night of November 22nd, 23rd, the FBI arrested Heidel, took his fingerprints, recognized cigarettes left at the scene of the crime, etc. The FBI kept Heidel hidden, tortured him, disfigured him in the same places as Oswald so no one could tell the difference. Heidel was then taken by the Dallas police before the press. Heidel, thinking that the organization, in quotes, was going to free him, he walked confidently toward the photographers and was shot in the gut by Jack Ruby. Heidel was wounded gravely and taken to the same hospital as President Kennedy was. Heidel died, but everything had been arranged by the FBI. With Heidel dead, Oswald could take his place, and the FBI left the investigation of Heidel's death to the Dallas police. Oswald is a very intelligent man, and he saw what the FBI was up to. He agreed to take Heidel's place, and he memorized his instructions. Quote, Oswald's appearance was then slightly modified by plastic surgery so that he could take Heidel's place. Oswald went to, quote, the organization and listed his reasons why he had not been around lately. The organization thought Oswald was Heidel. Oswald then secretly visited an FBI agent and furnished him with information. Oswald's mother and wife also cooperated. Quote, the FBI saw that its plan to throw the investigation off the track was working. The FBI had the case assigned to the Warren Committee. The FBI demanded that the Senate invoke an old law permitting false witnesses to be accused for false depositions. The demand was accepted by the Senate, and in order to complete and control the scheme completely, the FBI made use of all methods to win the task of protecting Johnson. The CIA, in order to avoid suspicion, accepted the plan. The FBI now has access to all secret papers, and the marshals control everything. The FBI has been given the cooperation of the American and world press. The organization is now completely deceived. It thinks its plans have been successful. The author concludes his report, quote, by stating that Oswald is now the perfect spy for the FBI, with everyone thinking he's dead, and the organization is completely unaware that Heidel is really Oswald. Including along with the document are several letters from French publishing houses informing the author that they are not in a position to publish his work, and a letter from the office of General de Gaulle thanking the author for his report and stating that, quote, General de Gaulle is unable to assist you in having your report published because he makes it a rule never to intervene in such matters. Au revoir, sir. You are dismissed. What in the Sam hell was that, Joe?
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that, sir.
That was a horrible example of Oswald double.
Yeah.
God. But that's kind of shit that the French people are writing in their papers. I mean, is that how they interpreted the crime? Like, that's crazy.
I don't know, but if they did, they have some problems for sure. But
yeah, no doubt. All right, Joe, I think we better wrap it up. We're coming up on 2 hours here.
Yeah, let's do it, sir. I just want to thank everyone that gave us super chats. John, Paula,
Yes.
Trey, Bloody Benders, Lee, Jack Taylor, Colleen, our Rocket Queen, Sally, Scott. Thank you so much. Means the world. I'm going to go to Second Set Fish and buy a beer and maybe something else with all your super chats. I hope you have a great weekend. I couldn't be happier to spend my birthday with all of you guys in the Triple B. And on that note, I'll stop yapping like 6 barbers and let you close it out.
All right. So once again, folks, that is it for us for episode 302, The Many Heights of Lee Harvey Oswald. We hope it was an informative and interesting show. Again, tune in next week where we don't know what the topic is going to be yet, but it will be cool. It will be informative and entertaining. And I think I've already got something up my sleeve for him, Joe.
You do.
So thanks for hanging out with us this week. We look forward to doing it. We have a blast. And thanks again for all those participating in the chat. All those sending super chats, man. It hits us right in the feels. Right in the feels. So that's it for Joey Scars, Yaps Like a Two Barbers, Morelli in his palatial Catskills estate, and it's your boy Rob Clark from his palatial basement in Virginia. So, until next time, folks. Peace. We are grooving and we are out.
Proceed with the party.
That's right. Party on, Wayne. You're supposed to say party on, Garth. Everybody have a good night and a great weekend. We love you.
Thank you again, everyone. I will.
Deuces!